Jane, the role of civil society. The issue we have with civil society, I know some of you are trying very hard with including IFA and Help Agent right now, is that the civil society for older persons is very insular. It's not well organized outside of their own country. It's not political, and it's not joined up, to use bad English, to have an impact on the regional, the international agenda. And this is something I know a lot of you are talking about, and to bring that message, to have that discussion about what is the relevance of what happens there at the UN to my particular topic of aging. So going forward, and certainly with 2015, civil society is going to have to get active with their governments at the national level to push the agenda of aging, demographic aging, and life course approach at the regional level and at the international level to get the message across. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of closing comments. It seems to me that older people are central to family. That to be effective, we need a relevant, joined-up, strategic global movement. And that the panellists here wanted us to know that we are relevant to the discussions at the UN. Whether we understand the structure and the complicated systems or not, we are relevant to the development of the post-2015 agenda, but also other agendas. We have a complex process to understand. Partnerships are important, accountability is imperative, and the voices of not only older people, but all of us need to be heard in unison. And I close with one word and one phrase, and I take it from Ambassador Abdicam, who is with us at the back. Ambassador, 2 days ago in a policy dialogue, in his opening comments, said, older people would like affection, like all of us, affection. And it struck me that we don't use that word very often in the context of these conferences. So I ask you to take that word away with you, because if we unpack that word, then we find out what we don't know about loneliness, marginalisation, discrimination, ageism, and more. So I leave you with that thought. Please thank the panellists. I ask you to grab a cup of coffee or tea with some lovely Turkish delights, and back here we will start the next plenary within the next 10 minutes. Thank you.
What am I representing?
And if I was talking at your guys,
Got there first. I got my German colleague.
How do you like me to put it?
The correct question is, so if someone asks me, so these are heavy tones, like this.
But when I come to fast, you see everybody else. When these countries, oh, you mean
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues. The final session of an amazing 3 days. My name is Sue Hinney. I'm an IFA Director. I'm from Australia. This session, Defining the Future Today, in many ways is trying to bring together all that we've heard in the last 3 days and set the stage for the future discussions that we'll have together with other people and in the years to come. Because of time constraints, I'm not going to do any great introductions. I will just introduce each speaker. I've asked them to keep their time to 15 minutes, and I know they will because all 4 of them have to catch a plane in a couple of hours. And so we actually have to finish on time. I'm not sure if we'll get question time in. So without further ado, I will invite Mr. Bjarne Hastrup, who's the Chief Executive Officer from Day and Age in Denmark. Bjarne.
So, I heard from a very good friend, don't make a speech after lunch because people are sleeping. And you have to repeat yourself all the time because you don't sleep at the same time. So, please help me. The Danish welfare model, perhaps some of you know it, it's a universal model, tax financed, and that means it's very vulnerable to future demography. And on the other hand, Danish is an association, 27 years old, and I was one of the founders of that organization, and within that time period, we have obtained almost 700,000 members. And Denmark is not Turkey, so it is 15% of all mature people in Denmark. So what I'm going to do is to show you how the Danish welfare state has been changed. It's not a fairy tale, even not a miracle, it is politics. And we talk about what is working and what's not working. I believe that the mega trends in this century, after the economic and financial crisis, just changed so much. It's changed from welfare to welfare. That means that we spoil people on the labour market, and we do not spoil people anymore who are outside the labour market. We even reduces some of their possibilities. I would call it a divide nation. The nation who are on the labour market will be spoiled, and the nation outside the labour market will not be spoiled. So it's from the protective welfare state to the competitive welfare state. Danish Minister of Finance has just announced that now we are a competitive welfare state. I do not hope that the weakest people will be competed out of the market. And we go from job security to employability. Don't come to us and tell us that you don't have a job. Tell us that you have some possibility to get a job, and we will activate you, and we will train you so that you can be washed and clean and put back to the labour market. And we go from safety to incentives. You know, incentives, all economists are loving the word incentives. I believe that economists has a middle name, which is incentives. Incentive to save, incentive to work, incentive to care for yourselves, and incentive to rehabilitation. And we want to leverage the personal resources, leveraging the civil society. Now they open up their eyes for us. They found out we have 14,000 volunteers, and they're going to utilize it Could you come at our nursing homes and be there overnight? No, we cannot. But we can care for and we can visit frail old people. Will not take over jobs which is paid. And leveraging welfare technology, that's what happens these days. All the technology developed around the world, specifically Japan, moving into Denmark, and we try to replace the people with technology. So this is a trend, and in the Danish Parliament there are great support and consensus on this. So what have we done? What is the miracle? It is that all political parties, they have agreed to make a reform, retirement reform, which means that in 2050 the retirement age for public pension are 71.5 years. And for a newborn baby, if you know the newborn baby and you send this newborn baby to Denmark, that newborn baby will retire from labor market when she is 77 years old. So we will not anymore in the airport say, welcome to Denmark, we say, welcome to the Danish labor market. And nobody will go free. What I want to emphasize for you is that this reform has made the Danish economy sustainable. The economy are portable in the future time. So we don't talk anymore about that we send a bill from this generation to the next generation. But on the other hand, it raises more questions than is solved. Raise that question, will there be job enough for all those people who have to stay on the labor market? Those who can't, what are we going to do about them? So retirement age increases next year. And the age limits will raise, as you saw, and the maximum unemployment time period has been shortened. You know, we have this flexicurity model, and I think it is more flexi than security. Things have changed. The labor market reform makes a lot harder to obtain early retirement due to health problems. And for younger people, it's incentive to finish final education and enter to the labor market as soon as possible. So now we have discipline. The welfare state, this is the trend. And how can we follow up on this? By leveraging the individual resources. There are a great phase in rehabilitation. You know, sometimes the new words come in the debate. And the word here is rehabilitation. We believe that all people can be rehabilitated, and the way they do it in some municipalities, they make it very good. They make tests and analysis, and many people try to improve your health and improve your physical conditions. But in other municipalities, they change very old people, afraid people, up and down the stairs. And they call it rehabilitation, and afterwards, now we will not give you home help anymore. So it's a tough situation where we are, and I do understand why our membership is growing very fast these days. It has come up in the government commission, which I was a member of. So the answer is today, we want to tell you until you have proven that you really can't do without help. That's a new trend. And the good idea is it makes self-reliances, regaining abilities, independence, dignity, if individual is motivated, but it's not always motivated. And those who say no, they will get no more. That's a new terrible tendency. The confidence, the lack of motivation, freedom, and sometimes meaningless pain. We're also leveraging new technologies coming from all over the world, and you know that's a lot of new technologies coming in. One of the technology which has been let down by the elderly is the robot vacuum cleaner, because it's not a vacuum cleaner, and it tells me something that authorities, local governments, national governments, they want to push technology into old age very people before it's really existed. That's one of the things I will argue against. So, in total, the major trends are, in short, keep citizens employed, even old persons. But you can't employ old persons unless you also educate them, train them. Take a look in the future time. It's not 30 years or 40 years you will be at the labor market. It's 50 years. So in the mid-period time period, you must be educated, you must be trained, you must go out and find a good university to be loaded again. You must keep citizens healthy and very functional as long as it is possible. And please exercise. Those who exercise will help those people. Don't smoke, don't drink, or eat too much. Did you get the message from the Danish government or from local governments? And that will keep citizens out of hospital. That's new politics. Will keep them out of hospital. Nursing homes and cares. You are laughing, but old age people are not laughing. Is this good or bad? If we execute it in the right way, with good social ethics, I think these trends may create more life quality in an affordable and sustainable way. If the people want to cook for themselves, isn't that true? And good social ethics means that we acknowledge that individuals are different, acknowledge that health problem and frailty will continue to exist, and using individual motivation and taking social responsibility for those less fortunate. But that is a bad side of it. If you execute it in the wrong way, these trends could entail cut back for citizens less fortunate. Humiliation, use of brute force, at least psychologically, and turn the blind eyes to the frailty and problems which we have seen, and discharging social responsibility. So I end up here so that you can see what my recommendation for all of you are, because very often Denmark is kind of a pathfinder, and many other countries in the Nordic countries will follow them. Some country in Europe will follow them, and one day it will arrive to you. I have these fundamentals. Do the fundamentals right. Keep the universal rights. Stay patient and care. Or you cannot redistribute risks for frailty, risk for illness, or you cannot redistribute income and fortune. To create a real well-functioning market for jobs for 55+ person, because they have to stay put on the labor market. That's not a good idea that we know we do not have a job for them, since they have no pension after until they at the age of 70 or 75. Show your experience and make sure employ recognition and send a clear message. We need you here. Stay on board. And we have heard yesterday that the productivity for all these workers are as good as for young workers. Promote lifelong learning, because you stay very long time on the labor market. Abolish all mandatory age limits. It's very funny in Denmark. On one hand, we want you on board until you're 70, 75. But on the other hand, after the age of 65, you cannot anymore be member of an unemployment fund. So where are we? Integrate health and social service and building specific needs problem. Invest in prevention and rehabilitation, save expensive care, increase dignity, increase quality of life, and invest in assisted living technology and provide good conditions for for the informal sector. And I can see at the moderator that I'm going to finish now. And my last word would be, if we talk so much about healthy old people, we talk so much about that people should stay on the labour market, I believe that the young generation and the politicians and civil service and economics, they will answer when a frail elderly address them, I want some help. You want some help? You are an old person, and we have defined old persons as healthy and due to go to the labour market. That's a very dangerous situation for us. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Björn, for those words, those challenges and some interesting insights. I'd like to invite Dr. Jacob Roy, who is the President and Chair of Alzheimer's Disease International in the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I bring greetings to all of you from Alzheimer's Disease International, the World Federation of 79 national Alzheimer's associations. I would like to describe dementia as the most complex, devastating and cruel illness that affects the human being. It strips you of your personality and all that you have heard in your lifetime, intellectually, academically, and leaving you dependent on others for your day-to-day living. We need to, why are we so concerned about dementia now? Because one is because of the fast increase in numbers of people affected by dementia. We also know that the cost of dementia care is going up dramatically, and there is so much of ignorance. Only a small percentage of them, between 10 and 40% of people get diagnosed. And there is most disparity in terms of research, which is mostly confined to Northern America and also Europe. And there is not much happening in terms of sharing of data. Looking at this slide, you can see, and I would like to say that the data that I am giving you is all from the WHO report, which was released in 2012. And you can see that from 36 billion in 2010, this is going to double by 2030, become 66 billion, and 115 million by 2050. See, as most people believe or think, it is not in the developed part of the world that majority of people eventually. It is in the developing part of the world, like China, India, Latin America, that majority of people eventually. So in 2010 is more than 60%, and by 2030 it will be more than 70% of people affected by dementia will be living in countries in the low and middle income countries. Again, proportionately, the growth in the next 20 years will be greater in the low and medium income countries, 40% in Europe, and more than 100% in East Asian countries. I mentioned about the cost. As of 2010, it is estimated that we spent about $600 billion to provide care for people with dementia. And this is going to double or triple in the coming 20 years. And if you have to consider dementia as an economy, it will be the 18th largest economy in the world between Turkey and Indonesia. And when I say cost, it includes the direct medical costs, the direct non-medical costs, and also the informal care that is being provided by the family members. This is another area where there is so much disparity because most of the research, as I said, happens in the developed part of the world, but things are beginning to change. And you can see that there is a beginning in Europe with the joint program of neurological disease and brain mapping, and also the 1066 Dementia Research Group. Those of you who don't know much about it, it is one of the largest dementia research group based in London, which is involved in dementia research in the low and the middle income countries. In the last 15 years, they have produced outstanding reports. In fact, every year we've been bringing out reports on different aspects of dementia, based on the research conducted by this dementia research group. There's also another collaboration, the Alzheimer's Disease Bureau Initiative. But we need to share a lot of this data globally and adding brain health promotion to the non-communicable disease programs, country programs, as well as also in the WHO programs. Research is required to identify the risk factors, which is at the moment is in the infancy stage, and primary prevention should target common risk factors that we know what is about vascular disease, conditions like diabetes, midlife hypertension, like obesity, smoking, and physical inactivity. So we need a broad public health approach to improve care and quality of people with dementia and their caregivers. There should be a sustainable plan which integrates formal and also family care arrangements, and we need to support social protection for all old people in the low and middle income countries by supporting and incentivizing informal care by the family carers. This was a survey conducted in the United States. What is the disease that most people fear, are afraid of? 31% of the people said Alzheimer's disease, just next to cancer, and after that only comes heart disease. And if you really look at the annual public health research funding in terms of billions, it is the lowest that is spent for less than 1 billion spent for Alzheimer's disease research. You see how much we are spending for cancer, how much we are spending for heart disease. So this is a huge disparity that is providing as of now. This is a term which we keep hearing and keeps coming up in the conversations, in the conferences, particularly in Europe, to build dementia-friendly communities. I strongly believe that it is worth investing in developing communities which are sensitive, which are friendly for people with dementia and their caregivers. And this is a topic which needs to be taken up and needs to be built up as a movement. We also need laws and public health programs that will support families and also home care options. Long-term care of people with dementia. In fact, the title of this year's World Alzheimer's Day and the World Alzheimer's Month has been Continuum of Care, or Journey of Care. And these are the questions that we often hear and we often ask. Who will fund the care? What are the responsibilities of the governments? What are the strategies health and social care systems should adopt? What's the future of long-term institutional care? This is other issues that needs to be incorporated and needs to be looked into, the use of technology in dementia care. And again, I want to stress that this is not confined to the developed part of the world. As you can imagine, I just heard recently that there are more mobile phones in India than toilets. So you can see how people are actually looking at technology, and people are increasingly using technology, and this should be certainly put into dementia care as well. We need a large army of trained, knowledgeable manpower who provide care. This is a huge issue which a lot of countries are facing, and as I said earlier, dementia should be everyone's concern, as aged care should be. So the way forward is how we can engage, how we can make governments to make dementia a public health and also a social care priority. How we can promote dementia-friendly societies, how we can improve public and professional attitudes and understanding of dementia. We need to invest in health and social systems to improve care and services for people with dementia and their carers. And again, priority to be given for dementia in the public health research agenda. So I want to conclude this presentation by saying that people with dementia deserve to be treated differently. They should not be seen as a burden, and care should be a right for people with dementia globally across the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. Some very interesting points in there, and I think just to mention one of the areas that we're working with in Victoria, with Alzheimer's Victoria, is around embedding dementia-friendly in the age-friendly work that we're doing. So we're not going off in different paths, we're trying to bring all that together. So I would suggest that that's something others might consider in their work. Without further ado, I welcome Mr. Gershon to the podium. He's already there, Senior Director at PricewaterhouseCoopers in the Netherlands. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, IFA and Turyak, for being here and this presentation. What I want to do with you in the next 15 minutes is to take you on a tour beyond the crisis, beyond the financial crisis, as prosperity rises again, and the war for talent and the retention of knowledge are the most important things we have to do. And coordination, where we have to get the talent and retain the knowledge to become older and older. What we like to do during the next 15 minutes is to look at how an employer could change the way he acts in the labor market to retain, to attract new talent, and to retain all the talent which is in the firm already. So let me, by hand raising, ask you a question. Who does know the content of the labor contract he's working on, the terms and conditions? Please raise your hands. So a few hands. So only a few people know what's in the labor contract about primary and secondary terms and conditions. The second question, how easy access do you have to those terms and conditions? Please raise hands if it's fairly accessible. Only a few hands again. The next question. How do you think those terms and conditions help you as a developing person? Nobody knows. Only one. Only one. So some people have knowledge of the terms and conditions, and only one knows that it helps in his personal development. How easy is to influence? How much influence do you have to change the terms and conditions at your employer for your working conditions, terms and conditions? Please raise your hands. Is it very easy? 6 hands. So I don't have to ask the questions how flexible is it. So what we try to do is, as an employer, look at our own firm, our own people, how we should change to be attractive in the future. Some remarks from. We are a professional services firm which consists of accountants, consultants, and tax advisors. That's one. And secondly, we have this traditional form up or out. You know, you grow or you go with the firm. So it's a very American stylish approach. That's the classical approach we have. So with that in mind, I will take you a little. Our people are mostly starters, young starters directly from the university. It's about 47%, and they seek variation challenge and they focus on the mission. And then after that, you come into rush hour. You only work, and you totally forget work-life balance. Your focus is on autonomy. You want to do all the things by yourself, and the risk of overburden is there. So when you look at our firm, more than 80% is at risk in our type of firm already. That's just the current situation. And don't think that beyond the crisis, the work becomes more. Then after that, you come in kind of a balance phase. And it's a phase in which you seek new challenges. You ask yourself, is this all? Should I do this work until my 65, 67, or even 77 years? That's 10% in our firm. And the last group is the group who transmit knowledge. It's 5%, but it's 5% of the most important people in our firm. They are the oldest people in the firm, mostly with the longest stay, the biggest networks, and the biggest influence on our turnover. The question we raise, in the Netherlands we've got 4,600 people working, worldwide more than 200,000 people. How can we keep them motivated, and how can we change the terms and conditions to keep them longer at the firm as the pension rate raises and keep us attractive? Well, the new generation which comes to us, and it's already happening, and we think that we will have less of them because of the knowledge with our clients which rises themselves. But they seek independence. They don't want a classic manager anymore. They want mentorship. They want a facilitated mentor. So they want another type of middle and top management. And we got a new type of guy and girl in our firm, we call it the family girl or family man. So when we have traditional up or out process, they go up, they say we start a family, so they want to have balance for a while and then they go again. Our terms and conditions did not provide that, weren't facilitated enough of that. And they need time to build a private matter. So what is more important is that that's the group which not only have a young family, but where the parents start to have trouble physically and mentally. So next to working and having a young family, they also have to run business in the formal care situation. Then the balance group. The balance group is more and more asking in the future, where are my strengths and weaknesses? How can I follow training, stay longer in the firm? How can I be how can I explore more new areas of working? And they are maximum involved in informal care. When I look around at my colleagues from that age, they want one day a week, they have to help the parents or children or otherwise. And then the transmit. How will the next generation, which now takes over 62, in our firm 62 to 65, how will they transmit their knowledge when they are 70? Because we are also in a rapid developing business. How can we change our language to make it fit? One thing for sure, new colleagues and new clients, they expect more of us. They trust peers, so they compare salary, they compare terms and conditions very easy on the internet. They do not some data, but they do integrity searches on data. They are informed, they have choices, they want to have choices, and they want to have a voice. And having a voice, we will see it with young employees, but also with older employees. So what we did is, we combined the business requirements with the personal requirements, and we created a vision on it. And the essence of the vision is stated below. We find relevant themes for all the people, youngsters and older people in our firm, during the life stage and lifestyle. We invented those themes. We made communication support clear, and so this is a constraint, so we are working on it yet. We want to get a continuous dialogue with the employees, young and old, and put them more in the front seat. They can flexibilize, they can choose within the themes of terms and conditions. And that looks like this. The terms and conditions, we combine them around care, development, mobility, home working, fidelity, and personal benefits. And what you see in the practice is that in one time, our care and home working is a little bit, cannot see very good. But if you have trouble at home, you have trouble with your parents, you want to emphasize your terms and conditions on care and home working, we have to facilitate that. After a little while, when you're younger, you have no problems, you want to emphasize on development and mobility, you want to work cross company. And believe it or not, in the next future, you work 2 days for PwC, 2 days for KPMG, and 2 days for yourself. And we have to facilitate that. Nothing about business intelligence, business information, business espionage. You want to cross-company work, cross-border, you want to be much more flexible. So what we did is we defined the parameters around those themes, and then we say, well, we got time for time. If you work longer in the summer, you can take off in the winter. You have a credit system. You don't go to learn and develop trainings anymore. You just get 10,000 euros extra on your salary, and at the end of the year, you show your fit for future. So you go to the training because you're self-steering, and that's very important. But you can't do that alone. We've got a lot of terms and conditions around the world in our firm. So we define the virtual guardian angel, referred as the HR consultant. And he helps you throughout the year to combine those terms and conditions which fits best to your personal development. And if you do that, you got a perfect fit for future concept around terms and conditions. We presented this to the board. The first they said, wow, that looks very famous. And the second question was, can it be done by law? Can we say, if you are very healthy, you train, you exercise every day, we give you a discount with insurance for healthcare? Can that be done by law? That are the questions we are now asking. But the board is into it and tries to change the terms and conditions for the labor market. We hope that we will attract young people and we retain fabulous older ones with the most knowledge which our firm drives on. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those insights into the way in which PwC is thinking, and it certainly started me thinking as a CEO, how do I bring some of those ideas into my company, and because workforces are changing, we need to be fit for the future, so thank you for that. And we now have, as our final speaker, Michelle Silvaros, from she's Manager of Global Advocacy, Bayer Healthcare. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, these are the wrong slides. Oh, can we just take 2 minutes? This isn't all what I want to talk about. Sorry, we're going to be waiting in the next time. Just give me 1 second.
Sure. We have some time for some questions of our present speakers. How about that? Yanni's going to get his exercise running back up to the... He's just gone down there for a second. So, yes, we have a question here. John.
For Dr. Roy, 2 questions. One is concerning genetic testing and what are the recommendations as far as your organization is concerned. And the other is on the European brain mapping project and President Obama's recent announcement, the moonshot, again, brain mapping in the United States. How do you view the prospects and when do you think we'll have a cure?
As for your first question, carrying FOE4 gene in your body or your blood is a risk factor, but it doesn't mean that all of them would develop dementia or Alzheimer's disease. So this is not being advised as a routine test for people unless they carry a risk, a familial risk or a risk in the family. So that's the first thing. So genetic testing is not being recommended as routine. And secondly, as for the brain mapping, we do know about this collaboration. And as far as the cure, to be frank, we don't think something will happen immediately. This is going to take a couple of years before we will have an actual cure for Alzheimer's. Because all of you know that we really don't know what actually causes the disease. And hence, we don't think, at least I personally don't think there's going to be a cure immediately.
We look like we're back on, so that was a nice little time filler. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, it's never good to do another complete mess up right at the end of the day. So while he's putting this on, thank you for inviting Bayer to come and present our vision on the future directions among the aging population. Bayer's commitment as a pharmaceutical industry crosses many different disciplines, but one focus that we find to be of the utmost importance is healthy vision. And this is also connected with the WHO, who has the Vision 2020 plan, which is preserving vision health. We at Bayer feel that the key to the WHO has formally called on leaders of nations to act in a global fight to preserve vision by developing local mandates and health policies to eradicate preventable vision loss by the year 2020. Now my slides are on, so I can continue. So we at Bayer feel that the key to achieving this goal lies not only with the national leaders, but actually this is ultimately all of the stakeholders within the community, including all of us sitting here today. So why vision? Why now? When there world, why should preserving vision be at the forefront? And a better question yet, how is the preservation of vision essentially important for the future direction of the aging population? I mean, as we all age, we anticipate that our vision will deteriorate, just like our bones will ache. I mean, even my vision has started to deteriorate. When I get the bill at the restaurant, I have to do that arm check to see how much I actually owe. But I think when we start looking at what is the variation of vision loss that's really acceptable, and it's an alarming percentage of what real numbers show of what is an appropriate level as to what can actually be prevented. When we look at the overall numbers, not specific to age, 285 million people are visually impaired, including 39 million who are totally blind. In reference to the aging population, we're looking at 94 million that suffer from moderate to severe visual impairment. This is a third of the total number affected. And the surprising part is, even though vision loss is currently the leading disability of age-related disability, 80% of this has been found to be preventable. So when we look at, for patients still at working age, we look at the high economic cost and burden of disease. This can lead to loss of productivity and earnings, potentially force them into early retirement. And even if you go past that, so they're in a later stage of their life and they've already retired, it does have a ripple effect onto the caregivers. So if they have children, maybe a daughter or son, this too will negatively impact on their work productivity. It's also been proven through clinical trials and regulatory approvals that early and optimal treatment is essential to prevent sight loss. And visual acuity and function preserved by early actions can decrease the economic impact of this vision loss. In 2010, the AMD Alliance International, which is a nonprofit organization, they actually did calculated what the costs are, both direct at 2.3 trillion and indirect at 652 billion. I think this total number of almost $3 trillion, and this was 3 years ago, is a pretty big statement. But it's not showing any way of slowing down. And they calculated by 2020 that this is going to rise to 3.56 trillion. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, especially with all the data conversation on the previous session, but we know that the Asian population is growing. When we talk about severe vision loss, what am I talking about? Where's Fire focusing on? Because there are 4 major parts that everyone knows. This is no particular word. We have age-related macular degeneration, AMD, cataracts, diabetic retinopathy, and glaucoma. But we're focusing on AMD today, and this is the leading cause of legal blindness in the elderly with Western societies and can affect an estimated 25 to 30 million people worldwide. But I think even more to show that globally, AMD is responsible for 8.7% of vision loss. So what is exactly this age-related macular degeneration? I think a lot of people probably know about this already, so I won't go into specifics, but essentially, this is characterized with a loss of central vision in your macula. This is due to a gradual deterioration, and that part of your eye that can see the fine details in the center actually will degenerate, and you'll start to lose this part of your vision. AMD does not cause pain, so that's why it's really hard to pick up at the beginning symptoms, and progression will always vary. There are 2 types, there's dry and wet, and when the early form is classified as dry AMD, the symptoms may not be noticed because your brain will actually cover up what's missing and fill in the blanks. But when you get to the wet form, you can actually see what's depicted here and lose the central vision. This can you no longer see the faces of your loved ones, and things that were once crisp evolve into blurred haze. And this can cause serious changes when you get to wet AMD over a short period of time. And just in this showing, these 1 to 3 vision chart lines can be lost within 3 months without appropriate treatment. This essentially means when you're looking at a letter, it will need to be twice as large for you to see. The impact goes beyond this, though, just so what we can see, this has a personal effect on the aging population. We have a person who has wet AMD, this will often trigger depression. Almost 1/3 of those suffer from clinically depressed. Decreases productivity, functional ability, and has been found to have a negative impact on quality of life. We also look at the old people when they have this vision loss, they suffer from lack of mobility, pain, anxiety. The quality of life, they can impact on their reading, writing, getting dressed, driving a car. This would be early stage. One of the more relevant pieces as well is that this vision impairment can increase risk of falling. So this has shown that double an individual's risk for falling, and this can destroy confidence, increase isolation, reduce independence, and this also plays a factor in national healthcare resource utilization. We also have a ripple effect of vision loss because it's not just the patient, this affects family, caregivers. 55% of caregivers felt that their role has an impact on other people. So this is just beyond them than their parent or relative. 93% of family members are actually, caregivers are family members. And 40% of those who have wet AMD have had an accident as a result of their vision loss, and 1 in 5 have been hospitalized. If you look at a baseline of depression rates, 2% of the general population over 65 have been shown to have depression rate of 2%. The caregivers in the survey were at 7%, and patients that had wet AMD, they were at 9%. This is a big difference in between how your natural baseline should be and what this disease can actually do. It's also, these patients with comorbid diseases, and 2 in 3 of the carers are also contending with their own disease. So the main point is that vision loss is no longer an integral part of this aging process. And if you look to Dr. Chan, the WHO, and even IFA here, they are saying saving eyesight will make a difference in our world for aging populations. And the costs of vision loss are high, especially when indirect costs are taken into account. The actual costs of prevention are really low. So here I just want to briefly why Bio is here at the table as well, is to say that we want to work together. We want to build on our experience in the back of the eye with wet AMD to go into further pieces to diversify who we're working with and invite all the stakeholders to come together in trying to eradicate this disease. We also want to expand our opportunities to improve the delivery of treatment and look into new therapies. But we need to all do this together. And I think going back to the beginning of the conversation in the WHO, I really think that to get here, we need to work together as a team, and this unified effort will lead to achieving a world where preventable vision loss is no longer a threat. And by initiating these dialogues and engaging all facets of representation, this will ultimately overcome the barriers and challenges currently facing the realization of the Vision 2020 plan. I just want to call brief attention to the IFA. They actually came together and brought multidisciplinaries, different stakeholders together, and did a global call to action. And I'm not going to go through each one just in after time, but I really encourage you to reach out to the IFA and get this report that talks about the high cost of vision loss and what we can do to prevent. So the only conclusions I have are that vision loss should no longer be viewed as an inevitable aspect of aging, that the aging population is growing at a rapid rate along with the disease prevalence, that if we're not proactive, national healthcare resource utilization will and is being negatively affected, and that prevention, detection, clinical treatments can be proven to reverse the course of vision loss. The community, with the report I just mentioned, has identified key steps to addressing this rising issue within the demographic, and to truly get there, and I think this has been reiterated over and over again with all the different presenters, is that a unified multi-stakeholder approach will be the key to achieving this call to action. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And believe it or not, we're actually running on time. Isn't that significant? But I think one of the things that was important in Michelle's presentation, some of those figures are stunning. They're absolutely incredible. And I think earlier today there was a point made about what we're doing above the neck. I think this panel has actually addressed that significantly. There are issues that we're talking about, the brain, the eyes, and how we are seeing in society and issues of the workforce. I think a fabulous panel, so thank you again to all of you for that and for your attention to time so that we actually came to this end. But if I could just ask you not to move, there's one last thing I am to do, and that's to call Dr. Dulga to the podium to read to us a conference declaration. Thank you.
dear delegates. Our conference is coming to an end. Thank you for your participation and patience and contributions. Here is a Congress declaration that is derived from the notes of our reporters on points which converge which are expressed by so many speakers. Congress Declaration. The International Istanbul Initiative on Aging and Expo 50+, with the partnership of IFA-TURYAK and Turyak, ran from the 4th to 6th October 2013, and it is finalizing its work with this Congress Declaration. Our Congress, with 400 delegates from 49 countries, numerous NGOs, and most of the international organizations, covered the widest spectrum possible on aging. The world faces a series of interconnected challenges, including global leadership imbalances, resource scarcity, natural and man-made disasters, climate changes, and rapid aging of the world population. Aging is a natural process of life, and the rights of the older people are human rights. Longer lives and more aged people mean higher value and new benefits in our societies. The 21st century will be known as an era of aging in the history. There never was a time in the human history when man had to plan and design for long lives. So there is no reason why it shouldn't be known as an era of building a new world with an intergenerational solidarity vision. Older persons are a valuable resource. They are the repositories of our tradition, culture, knowledge, and skills. These attributes are essential in maintaining intergenerational links. The vast majority of older persons make vital contributions to their societies, families, and communities as workers, caregivers, volunteers, mentors, and as active citizens. Burden and growing old should not be the norm, but an exception. Loneliness, marginalization, and ageism are unacceptable elements of the community. Environments can enable older people to live with choice, dignity, and quality. Intergenerational dialogue, exchanges, collaboration between researchers and policymakers is the heart of reframing the agenda on the aging policies and practices. Intergenerational solidarity has a three-dimensional meaning. Solidarity among different age groups in a family is the first one. National and global solidarity between world's generations is the second one. And the redistribution of the resources of societies and economies by inclusive approaches to their aging populations. This is a third dimension. Especially, we must be aware from the start that we have to cope with lower relative pensions and starting to save ourselves as individuals from young ages on. This is a crucial difference in our expectations of the future. The new approach on aging should be about health and wellness throughout all ages, facilitating active and productive aging. we must show direction to the young generations to productive and meaningful lives. The first step by education of new life skills and connection with work through lifelong learning are critical. These steps can continue by reducing the cost of care and improving the quality of life for all. New roles of the elderly are already underway. Seniors as supporters of the youngest generation, seniors as educators, seniors as elderly care sharers, seniors as a new and picky market. This attitude of the elders can act as a dynamic that will help change family relationships and bring about intergenerational solidarity and respect. Most of the evidence for defining the future for social restructuring can be derived from the population change. Informed planning for services and the health system, planning for solutions to long-term structural unemployment issues, new financial instruments like long-term care insurances, community-based pension systems, urban planning according to where the people plan to live in their later years, integrated habitat architecture, ergonomic design, social inclusion movements, more efficient government layout, and more developed public services are some of the changes we are going to face. Elderly need love, affection, and be respectable senior citizens of the world, and they deserve this. Delegates of the International Istanbul Initiative on Aging call upon the governments, non-governmental organizations, the corporate, private, and voluntary sectors to join forces to advocate for improved quality of life by inclusive attitude with their senior citizens, together with their senior citizens. So elders, speak up.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado, for those words, and I'm assuming that we will be sending those out to delegates.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you very much for that. So without further ado, on behalf of the IFA and TURYAK, I would like to thank you all for your participation, whether it be on the stage or in the audience or in the networking, over lunch, etc. Sharing your knowledge, your ideas and your enthusiasm. Creating a better world for those who are aging or older now and for us who aspire to be aging, which I think is what we all have in common. I hope that you travel well until we next meet, and I wish you a happy aging. Thank you.
Their mission